One of our biggest problem in this country is the system can just, go here and there. Not only when the government change, even when minister change, sometimes things got changed for no good reason, which is really not the way to make democracy work.
Welcome to the Are We OK podcast, where we talk about public policies in ways that are accessible to you, the person on the street. Today we have a special guest with us, and let's go straight into this special episode with none other than Dato Saifuddin Abdullah, MP for Indera Mahkota, former Deputy Minister for Higher Education, former Minister of Foreign Affairs, former Minister of Communications. So a very distinguished service in public life, and continues to be a Member of Parliament in the state of Pahang, where he is originally from. Welcome to the show, Dato. How are you feeling today?
I'm feeling okay.
Okay? Yeah. On the Are We OK podcast. It's good that we can reconnect and talk about things that we enjoy, in terms of not just contributing to public life, but also another topic that maybe a lot of listeners may not know about, which is your love for basketball.
Okay.
Right? So the NBA finals just finished. The Celtics won 4-1 against the Mavericks.
Looks like very easy for Celtic. 4-1.
Were you rooting for one team versus another?
No, not really.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any players on both teams that you enjoy watching more than others?
Well, for Celtic, probably Tatum.
Tatum? Okay.
Yeah, Tatum. Yeah. But I don't really follow teams. I used to follow the coach.
The coach? Okay. Phil Jackson.
Phil Jackson. Okay. So, because I was following him, so I follow Bulls and then
Chicago Bulls and then Lakers.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah, I really like his way of coaching.
What did you like about Phil Jackson's way of coaching?
The two things. One is his zen.
Okay, very.
This is one of the few coaches who don't really shout from the sideline during games. By the way, nobody listens to you when you are playing, right? He was one of those who actually, he didn't start the triangle offense, but he was the one who perfected it. And if you manage to convince people like Kobe and Shaq and Jordan to play that strategy, you must be really good coach lah.
Yeah, working together with this guy called Tex Winters in Chicago, and then later in LA right. as well.
Yeah, but you play what?
Yeah, I play a bit. We haven't played together, but maybe we'll have a pickup game together with some of the MPs in the near future.
Well, Wang Cheng is trying to start a
that's what you said,
basketball team.
Hopefully we won't get injured.
MPs.
We play again.
He first suggested we should play full court. I say, oh, no way. No way. 3-on-3 is good enough.
Did you play basketball when you were young?
Yeah, I started when I was in primary school.
Okay.
And then I continued until I was in high school.
What made you want to play basketball? Because in Malaysia, basketball is seen as a very kind of Chinese kind of sport, if you don't mind me saying.
I was in standard 2, I think, in ABS Mentakap. It's a mixed school. Then I saw people playing this. Oh, what game is this? I was raised in a Malay kampung, and I saw there was not a single non-Chinese on the court, but I have Chinese friends. So I went, and then they start asking me if you want to play. So yeah, I remember the first few days bengkak tangan, because they passed me like I know how to play. Okay. And then when I was in standard 3, we used to tompang the Chinese school because we don't have enough classes. Okay. So, of course they play basketball, and that's how I learned how to play basketball, and then the rest is history, as they say.
When you were Deputy Minister of Higher Education, and maybe even before that, and then even after, you tried to promote women's basketball quite a bit.
Yeah, I'm actually the founder of the Malaysian Women Basketball League. That was in 2013, 2014. The league is still there with different name now. It's now run by MABA. I used to run it myself during my sabbatical, and now it's run by MABA.
The Malaysian Basketball Association.
The Malaysian Basketball Association. I think they have done a good job by dividing the league now. They have a D League, Development League, and then they have the senior, which is good.
Okay. And that's where many of our national players play, and also are sourced from.
Both male and female.
Okay.
And there are one or two other leagues also organized by other people. In fact, there's another one that was started 1 or 2 years ago. This is really a bridge between the non-Chinese basketball league and the open league. Yeah, they call it XBL or something like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Petronas used to have a team. I'm not sure whether they do or not. And
they used to sponsor quite a bit.
Okay.
Petronas, yeah.
And quite a number of non-Chinese players as well.
Yes. Yeah.
So, do you think that sports is a good way to try to bring together people from different communities?
Definitely.
different, maybe encourage more gender participation?
Yes, I think we still suffer from the male players or athletes are getting more attention and probably more sponsorship compared to the female athletes. I think we should work hard to bridge the gap.
Do you sort of like observe, for example, now in the US, there's this female basketball player called Caitlin Clark.
Yeah, there was a debate whether she would be in the lineup
in the Olympics. Ultimately, she wasn't, but she has drawn a lot of viewers and audience to the women's game. And in fact, because of her and others, this year's NCAA tournament, the women's championship, in some ways, I think got more publicity compared to the men's tournament. Do you think that that is a good development?
No, I think it's a good development. Anything that brings more people to watch sports. And hopefully not just to watch, but to play. You know, Kiaming, my biggest worry is youngsters nowadays play sports online only.
Yes.
You know? So they will tell you everything about basketball or soccer or anything else, but it's all online. Yeah, we want them to we really
NBA
want
2K.
Exactly. We really want people to go down and sweat it out and play.
And do you have time to maybe do a bit of exercise now?
Sikit.
Okay, that's good to know. And maybe on this note, do you still organize like competitions in your own kawasan in Indera Mahkota?
Yes, I do. I have a very active KABA, Kuantan Basketball Association. It so happened that the president, Dato Aziz, was my teammate when we were in high school.
Oh, okay.
So he used to play for the police force. So I normally collaborate with them.
Okay. How has the response been?
Very good. And interestingly, I think there are now more and more non-Chinese playing basketball. And this is something that we should further get more non-Chinese to play. Beginning in 1974, Tun Razak was then Prime Minister. He had the vision to start the Piala Hamdan Tahir among the boarding schools.
Okay.
So that's how, I started before I go to boarding school. Most of the non-Chinese players that you see today, they started in the boarding schools.
Okay.
So we have now about 60 or 64 boarding schools playing basketball.
This will be pre-university, probably secondary school level.
Yes, they started from Form 1 until Form 5 nowadays. So easily you get more than 500,000 non-Chinese now playing.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Which is a good thing. So likewise, I was saying we should have more non-Malays playing takraw.
Yes, correct.
We should try and
bridge that kind of gap lah.
Yeah. So that no sports is known to be predominantly played by one community. Yeah.
On the constituency or the kawasan activities lah, you've been in a unique situation whereby you were previously an MP for UMNO. You lost your seat to a past candidate. You did some NGO work and also helped out in the Malaysian moderates movement. Then you ran again and you won under a different party, under PKR. Later on, because of the Sheraton move, you chose a certain side. You joined Bersatu. And then in 2022, you won as a Bersatu MP. But you found yourself in the opposition. So as an opposition MP, especially now since you do not have access to the constituency allocation, how has it affected your abilities to function as a member of parliament?
Well, I must say it's not easy because I'm so used to be an MP from the government. But I learned from how past MPs are working. They have been there long time as opposition and they survive.
Yes.
So I maintain a small outfit in my kawasan. I have an office. I maintain the same office minus the store. There's nothing to store.
Okay. Yes, understand.
There's no allocation.
Yes.
Of course, a very small number. I mean, there are only 4 people there and 1 in KL. No allocation means you have to spend your own money to pay for the bills and to pay for your staff salary or allowances. Very little money for whatever other expenses. But I suppose that should not be an excuse for not doing your work. As I said earlier, I learned from how the past MPs are working. But of course, they work in a different style. You know? We in Bersatu, or I myself, even if I'm not from Bersatu, I will have to choose a different way of working. But again, there are ways and means to do your work. Not everybody will come to you asking for allocations. That's the first thing. If you have, they will welcome it. Well, probably more people come to see you because you have allocation. So less people come to see you because you have no allocation, which is true in my own experience now. But it doesn't mean that because you don't have allocation, you cannot do your work as an MP,
Yes.
both in kawasan and more so in Parliament. In Parliament, it's not about allocation. In
Yes.
Parliament, it's about policies and bills and things like that. Yeah.
I mean, I was in a similar position in that I was an opposition
Exactly.
MP, but of course, we had a bit of support from the Selangor state government. You are in a situation where you are not just opposition at the federal level, but you are also in a state where you are in the opposition as well. So I think probably a bit more challenging. But maybe just to stick on this issue, are you a little bit disappointed the unity government isn't following what, for example, Pakatan Harapan used to campaign for in terms of providing equal constituency allocation, which was something that even Ismail Sabri did as part and parcel of the MOU with Pakatan Harapan. Are you a bit sort of like disappointed that certain principles are not being followed?
Absolutely. Remember, I was in PH at one time.
Yes, correct.
So some of the promises in the last manifesto are not alien to me. And so it is a sad thing that it is not happening. And I'm saying this not because I'm in opposition, but I believe we all aspire for our democracy to be more mature and for democracy to work. And when it comes to allocation, we know that there are two kinds of allocation. One is normally it's about 300,000 a year. That is for you to pay for your office and your staff. Now that to me is basic.
Yes.
The other one is the other development thing. Well, to me that is optional. I mean, it's up to you. You want to give, you don't want to give, it's really up to you. In fact, I still hold to the position that MPs don't really need that allocation because that allocation should go through the district office. MPs can play a role in facilitating that. But I don't think MPs should have a business doing or managing that kind of funding. But the basic allocation, I think, is supposed to be given to all. Yeah, and this is where I think some of the opposition MPs are becoming very loud when they speak about this issue.
I remember when Tun Mahathir was the Prime Minister, he did give, I think it was 100,000 to the opposition at that time. At that time, you were minister.
Yes.
Right now, you are not even given one single cent.
I think there was some allocation. I cannot remember how much. And then during Tan Sri Muhyiddin's time, the bakul makanan allocation
yes, I was.
plus were given
access
to all.
To a bit of that.
Yes, and then there was the MOU during Ismail Sabri. So I thought we should be doing better now. So there should be some kind of incremental,
progress.
Progress, yeah. But unfortunately, it's not happening. Well, the last time I heard, there was some discussion. So many of us in the opposition are hopeful that it will materialize.
I have two responses as follow-up. One sort of like putting the ball in the court of the opposition, another putting the ball in the court of the government. I make this sort of like intervention or response first to the opposition. There are some people who said, look, the opposition did not want to stay in opposition soon after the 2022 general election. And in fact, up until the state elections of 2023, there was this call to say that Perikatan Nasional will want to overthrow this government by having another Sheraton move. I'm not saying that you supported that, but that was the narrative that was going around. And I think because of this kind of narrative, the government then used this as an excuse to say, look, these guys are not being serious in wanting to be a loyal opposition, and they want to regain power through, non-electoral means. And that's why we don't want to give you the constituency allocation. Do you think that is a fair sort of like a criticism or fair response?
No, I don't think it is a fair criticism or response, simply because, well, two things. Number one, the promise made during the campaign. And number two, I thought it is in the interest of everybody that the CSA, so to speak,
the confidence and supply agreement,
is properly institutionalized, whether it is in the form of MOU or, well, some people are saying it should be in the form of an act of parliament. I'm okay with both, but so long as we have this properly institutionalized.
My preference would be some sort of a Parliamentary Constituency Act that regularizes this so that whoever's in power doesn't use this as a weapon against the other side.
Yeah, and further to that, I suppose this is part and parcel of the parliamentary reform. Like, for example, the position of the opposition chief.
Yes.
It is there in the standing order. It is there in the rules and regulation, but it is not properly institutionalize the role of the opposition leader. Yeah, and mind you, in some states like my home state Pahang, there's no opposition leader in the Dewan. So Tuan Ibrahim now we call him the opposition leader in the Dewan Rakyat.
De facto.
The de facto opposition leader, and we call him that. And whenever he speak, and he claims to be the opposition leader, but it's not recognized by the Dewan.
I will just make this last response, and then we'll take a break. Which is my own personal fear. Not being in Parliament now, is that if, let's say, there's a change in government after the next elections, and PH finds itself not being in government, or even UMNO, let's say, whoever is in government, let's say PN, may then use what PH did or the unity government did to them, to you guys, and say, we're not going to give you the allocation. Then becomes tit for tat.
Exactly. This is exactly what we don't need.
Yes.
Yeah. What we need is furthering of the reform. Yeah. And get things done properly, so that whatever happened, the system is there. The system is intact. And one of our biggest problem in this country is the system can just, go here and there. You see, I mean, we all know this from our own experiences. Not only when the government changed, even when minister changed, sometimes, things got changed for no reason. I mean, for no specific, for no good reason. Yeah. Which is really not the way to make democracy work.
Yeah, so this is something that I've been quite consistent in speaking up on.
Yes, I know.
Here and also in other places, together with other NGOs, including Bersatu, to say that we do really need a move towards equal constituency allocation, especially if we want to be consistent to our principles. This is to PH leaders as well as PH supporters, and we'll come back after this to continue the conversation on Parliament, shifting from the constituency to the Parliament now, and what is Dato Saifuddin's view on what's happening in Parliament. Be right back. Welcome back to the Are We OK podcast, where we talk about public policies in ways that are accessible to you. Before we talk about the things that are of interest to our special guests, today's episode is brought to you by Zeus Coffee, the special single origin espresso with special beans from Colombia, where coffee is a necessity crafted for the unique. Here we have a special guest, Dato Saifuddin Abdullah, a man of great political experience. Dato, we're just talking about what's happening in your constituency, and then we went on to what's happening in Parliament. So before I go into your specific special select committee in Parliament, I wanted to ask you, since you've been through different parties in your career as an MP, when you go into Parliament and you see your friends from different parties, what is the response like? And after that, I will share my own personal experience with you.
Maybe because I have never had a fight with anyone, minus a few who may not smile to me like they used to be for the first instances.
Yes.
And then we get normalized again. And if you go to the cafe, you minum together, and then you lambai or you salam, so no real, at least in my mind, I think they treat me like we are old friends. I treat them like we are old friends. Yes, we can have friendly banters in the Dewan. Even during campaigns, I think we don't really go after one another. Yeah. And I thought that's what we should be like.
We should be more civil.
Yeah, we should be more civil. You see, one of our problems is our differences are too sharp, and our politics tend to be very adversarial.
Yes.
I'm not talking about personal attacks, that's even worse. But even the debate sometimes.
Different sides of the aisle.
So I think we still lack that discussion or debate on actual policies.
A more civilized, a more sort of like rational kind of debate.
Exactly. We miss that, should I say we miss that? We are still lacking in that.
Well, some people do it more than others, but those clips that you see generally coming out from Parliament that's shown in public.
Well, the clips are the sensational one.
Correct. People shouting and calling each other names.
Yeah. There are some good, very sober and very civil moments, but normally those clips don't get ratings lah. Get ratings lah.
I'm going to share with you my own personal experience, and this hit me quite hard. I'm sure you understand or can know where I'm coming from, which is, I think after the Sheraton move, you remain as a minister, but you changed portfolio for a short time. One particular interjection where I'm not sure whether you remember this. I think Hannah Yo brought up something, and then you said something like, "Oh, no wonder you find yourselves in opposition now."
Yes, I remember that. And then I apologized after that.
Was it because it was a little bit emotional?
I think it was spur of the moment at that time. Yeah.
And the reaction to you towards you among the PH MPs, I think, was quite strong, right?
Exactly. I don't blame them. Yeah, it was my mistake. My bad. My bad. Yeah, but I remember after that because there was a pause or something. Then I stood up again to continue. But before I continue, I apologize. Yeah.
And I think maybe you would also realize or understand why some people from PH had that kind of adverse reaction. And I'll share my personal views because, we saw in you a leader in PH at that time that could unite us and provide leadership. And of course, we understand that certain political calculations were made because of Sheraton move. But I think because of your background and how, we sort of give you a higher standing compared to others, maybe in a way that's similar to the kind of hopes and aspirations that many people put on Hannah, and now she's being attacked for this contract that was awarded to her husband. Do you understand why some people felt a bit more disappointed towards what you did?
Yeah, I perfectly understand. Okay. And I don't, as I say, I don't blame them. But I'm also thankful with the fact that we remain friends. We remain friends, yeah.
Yeah, and it's good that we are having this conversation because I think during some times, in Parliament, when after the Sheraton move happened, we still said hi, bye, but
yes,
it was quite cool, and
yeah.
It was not so easy to have the kind of discussion that we had, when we were together in PH.
And it's interesting because you brought Hannah. Now she's the Minister of Youth and Sports, and we had good exchanges on, among others. Guess what? Basketball.
Okay.
Yeah, I used to ask her one or two questions, and I thought she replied very well.
In this new parliamentary setting, although you are in the opposition, because of certain reforms that were made in the past, you are actually in a position of chairing a special select committee on education. And you are also the shadow minister for education issues on the part of Perikatan Nasional. So how has that experience been in terms of chairing that committee? I don't think you've chaired a special select committee before in the past, right? Because you were always in government.
Yeah, the select committee that I chair has a very long name, and it involves 6 or 7 ministries. It's the Special Select Committee on Nation Building, Education and Human Resource. But the main 3 portfolios would be education, higher education and human resource. And at the same time, I'm also Shadow Minister for Education. Used to be education, including higher education. Now Dr. Sam, Menteri Besar of Terengganu, is in charge of higher education. So
because of his academic background.
Yeah, so that released me quite a bit. I have prepared and put up a paper on a proposal for education reform. Already shared it with Zamri Kadeh, our Minister of Higher Education, and I met him twice. The first time to submit to him the proposal. He was kind enough to attend our Special Select Committee meeting. Not many ministers attend Special Select Committee meetings. So he came with his battalion, which was very good. We discussed 5 major issues.
You want to share what those issues?
One is on education reform, including higher education. The other one is consolidation of TVET institutions. We have 12 agencies or ministries in charge of TVET, one of which has only 2 colleges under that ministry.
Is it the Ministry of Agriculture? Or?
Motec.
Oh, Motec. Okay.
Okay. And then how do we strengthen co-curricular activities? And how do we evaluate co-curricular programs as a criteria to enter universities, public universities?
Yes.
Yep. Then we look at employment issues. And then the other one is on research and development. So we had a good discussion, and then we agreed on a few things that we should have follow up. So I think we are now going into that area.
Can I ask about the dynamics within the Special Select Committee? Because you have MPs from all parties there.
We have PAS, Idris, we have Syed Sadek. So we have 3 former ministers. We have Kula. So 4. Used to be. So now I'm awaiting for the replacement. And then we have Bakhtiar, former deputy minister. We have Mutalib, former deputy minister, and then we have another MP from Sabah. So it's quite a dynamic group of people, and we have had good discussions. And we have invited KSUs and senior officials from other ministries. Next on the list will be Minister Fadlina
of Education.
What
would be some of the issues that you want to bring up to her?
One is again education reform, because there are different areas of reform. The other one would be again strengthening of co-curriculum. The third one, guess what?
DLP.
Yes.
Dual language program.
Yes. DLP, as we know it, it's a good program, much better than teaching of maths and science in English.
That was made compulsory.
So
DLP gives a lot of flexibility to the schools.
A lot of flexibility to the schools and parents, choice to the parents, and the teachers. The problem now is, most recently, a few months ago, there were new, conditions. First, we heard it in Klang Valley. So that was the time when Putrajaya, Dr. Razi, myself, and Vikas Yong, we spoke in Parliament. We were asking the minister, please don't do this. Let the DLP work. Because already it has been there for many years and it's working quite well.
And you mentioned before it was started during Tan Sri Muhyiddin's time as Minister of Education.
Exactly, but that's not the reason why I'm supporting it. And then most recently there was a big hoo-ha in Penang again. And unfortunately some politician took it wrongly. Partly maybe because the news the story in the news or in the media was not properly reported. It's not about people in Penang not liking Malay language to be used as a medium of instruction. It's simply because they were against new conditions made by the ministry. Otherwise, we should allow the LP to work its way and improve itself.
For those who are not so familiar with this, there were conditions put whereby you needed to have one class
taught in Malay.
And I think the fact that there are already all the other classes being taught in Malay in other subjects, including BM and others, that there wasn't the need for this kind of I would call it symbolic insertion.
Because already it's a choice whether you want your kids to be taught in English or in Malay. And number two,
and only for
the science and maths. Because all the other subjects are in Malay already, so no issue. And number two, the moment you do that without proper notice, not that if you have proper notice I will be agreeable, but all the more reason people are not in agreement because you give short notice. Teachers, parents and students, everyone just got caught in the whole thing, and they can't plan, and so you have to understand why people were complaining.
So are you optimistic that this year you will be able to get the Minister of Education to come?
I'm very, very hopeful.
Okay.
I will even personally go and see her, and ask her come for our meeting.
Well,
because
if any of her staff are listening to this, we'll have a clip out, and then Dato Saifuddin is inviting you to go and share your thoughts and listen to the opinions of the Special Select Committee on Education. How about the other portfolios? Would you invite Stephen Sim?
Yes, of course. Because there are one or two issues on human resource. Chief among others would be, we have this classification of jobs.
Yes.
All right.
Critical occupations and different
So
sectors.
the one that I've been asking is, what about digital economy? How do you then classify jobs? Because not that you need it to be classified, but you need to guide parents.
Okay.
You see, you remember there was a time when parents got panicky when their kids say, I want to be a chef. It's like, chef? Because parents were used to 6 or 7 or 8 or 9 jobs that are considered professional.
Yes.
So there was a time when to be a chef, you're not professional. But now people understand the meaning of professionalism.
Yes.
So digital economy, what does it mean? What does it mean for someone young who doesn't want to work in one particular organization like people like me or your generation are used to? So you need to guide parents. So you need to at least inform parents that in the digital economy there are maybe 5 or 6 types of job
And those roles may change over time with new technology, AI, and things like that.
So that is important. The other reason why this is important is to ensure that young workers, professionals in ICT-related companies or digital economy-related companies get proper paid.
Okay.
Because otherwise,
they can be
some people can be shortchanged. People can be manipulated.
Maybe the last one would be on the national unity side. It's under this select committee as well. There have been talks about wanting to revive the national service under the Ministry of Defence for the purpose of national unity. What are your views on this?
I'm not really into, even those days, I was not really into that PLKN, our version of national service. I thought we can do better if we were to strengthen the co-curricular activities in schools. We already have the sports, the uniform bodies, and the associations or the persatuan. If only we do better, I think we can go without national service, because our national service is not really national service. I mean, we all know that national service is like in Singapore
for purposes of defense.
Exactly. When I was the president of the Malaysian Youth Council,
Majlis Belia
Malaysia, and this was in late 90s, we were talking about patriotism. All right. So there were a few conferences on patriotism organized. One of which was organized with the Majlis Belia Malaysia. In the closing ceremony, Tun Mahathir came, gave a good lecture on history, on patriotism. Then there was a question from the floor from Lee Lam Tai. Lee Lam Tai asked the question, talking about patriotism, Mr. Prime Minister, is the government thinking of introducing national service? About 2 weeks later, the government came up with a statement that we are now thinking about starting national service. Dato Najib was then the defense minister. Later on, a committee was formed and then PLKN was launched as a pilot. So I was involved in the curriculum design of the pilot, and we know from day one that this is not national service. And then, things happen, it evolved. And still until today, it's not for everybody.
I have some friends and younger people who have gone through it and they found it to be a positive experience. But we actually don't really have any evaluation of how much it contributed to national unity and things like that.
Exactly. There was a commission formed at one time. I can't name who the people who were involved, because they were commissioned to do a survey or a research or a study on the effectiveness of PLKN. Of course, they cannot reveal the finding because they have to give it to the government. It was never revealed, Okay. But I suppose if you want to continue, you better look at it properly. But if I have a choice, I would say no, scrap it off, but strengthen the existing co-curricular activities in schools.
So the Parliament is going to start soon, the second session. What are some of the things that you will have on your plate in terms of debating, in terms of also in your capacity as the chair of the Special Select Committee? Maybe you can give us a preview.
Well, on education reform, I think we will be more specific this time. On, for example, in schools, teacher training. Number 2, evaluation of students' performance. Remember, the World Bank report in April was quite
scary.
Quite scary. We are now losing to
Vietnam.
In terms of reading, writing, and mathematics.
And our PISA scores also.
Our PISA score has dropped. So teacher training, evaluation of students' performance in the real sense of the word, and then strengthening of the co-curricular. Zamri is very receptive. The Minister of Higher Education. Today, the UPU process is such that when you fill in the form, 10% weightage is given to co-curricular activities. My proposal is 30%.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Dr. Zamri's reply was 20. I said, I'm okay with 20, but anything better than 10 is good, because, maybe it takes time to go to 30. Well, you see, Kiaming, the point is not about 30 or 40. The thing is, we know that the top universities in the world, if you want to be recruited, they look at your results and also your
contributions,
voluntary and things like that. And when you say you are good in sports, to most of the top universities, playing for the school is not sufficient. You have to do more than just playing for the school. So these are the kind of thing that I thought.
Maybe other leadership roles, other projects that you've been involved in.
Yeah. So we really need to, and this is why I'm very, I believe that if we were to strengthen the co-curricular aspects, then you don't need the PLKN. Because most of the thing that you do
is already taking place in schools.
It's already
and
taken,
universities.
in schools and universities.
All right, that's I think a good way to sort of like end this section on parliamentary activities, and we'll be right back to talk about other institutional reforms. Be right back. Welcome back to the final segment of this special episode of the Are We OK podcast, where we talk about public policies. Dato, this last segment, kita nak hangatkan sikit. We want to raise the temperature a bit.
Now I'm in trouble.
No, I think, in the spirit of open discussion and debate, one area I think of institutional reform that I was very glad to see happen, when I was still an MP, was the introduction of the anti-hopping constitutional amendment. This is probably the first time I'm asking you this, but I think you were aware that myself and Tony Pua, we negotiated the CSA, or the Confidence and Supply Agreement, together with the Private Secretary to Tan Sri Muhyiddin when he was still Prime Minister. And the idea was to put on the table certain institutional reforms, including the anti-party hopping law or constitutional amendment. Of course, that CSA offer by Tan Sri Muhyiddin wasn't accepted by PH at that time, but Ismail Sabri accepted it, and it was one of the things that was put in place. So now we see a situation whereby there are 6 Bersatu MPs who have been given letters, by Bersatu to say that they cease to be a member of Bersatu,
and hence
the interpretation of Bersatu, given the constitutional amendment, would be once they lose their party membership, they should cease to be members of parliament.
Exactly.
Right now, the ball is in the court of the speaker.
And the Speaker of Kelantan has announced this morning that Nenggiri seat is now vacant.
Yes. So the Nenggiri Adun is also the Gua Musang MP from Bersatu. And now, I think the speaker in the Dewan Rakyat faces a tricky call. I have my own assessment on what I think he will do. The former MP for Sungai Petani, Dato Jo. How about you? What do you think are some of the considerations that the speaker faces now in Dewan Rakyat?
Well, the challenge for him is because his colleague, the Speaker of Dewan Negeri Kelantan, has made that decision. So probably he will find it quite difficult, to say that the 6 MPs have not vacated their seats. But he will have some points to use, of course. If you're on this side or if you're on that side, you will have your argumentation. He has 21 days. I don't know how many more days he has. But I suppose what might happen if he say yes, the seats are vacant, then we will have PRK automatically within 60 days or so. If the speaker so decide that the seats are not vacant, then Bersatu and PN together will have to challenge
this in court.
The decision in court. So they will take a few more months.
And it may go all the way up to federal court?
Probably. And for all you know, the MPs may still be MPs until the next election. I mean, we know how the system works. You cannot just say, because this is coming from whichever party, you have to expedite the case. Well, if we were to go to court, we want it to be expedited. But again, you can't force the court. They have their timetable, they have their scheduling and things like that. So it will be some process.
Yeah, if that is the sort of like process, it will be an interesting constitutional discussion. A lot of material for constitutional lawyers and academics to then discuss.
And remember, Bersatu still have a long-standing issue with the 4 MPs from Sabah. Still not settled. So
I'm going to have again 2 responses. One, maybe putting the ball in Bersatu's court, and another putting the ball in PH's court. So some people would say Bersatu did not want to amend its own party constitution before the last general election, and Bersatu was the one party that objected towards a constitutional amendment to say that if a MP decides to support somebody for PM or the budget in a way that contravene the decision of the party leadership, that person would automatically lose his or her seat as a member of parliament. Bersatu did not want that because maybe Bersatu leaders thought that after the last general election, they could maybe tempt some people from UMNO or from other parties to join them. That's my speculation. But would you agree that Bersatu also has to take some responsibility for this kind of situation?
I think everyone has to take some kind of responsibility. I mean, some parties, I think the AP, were very quick in amending your party constitution.
Yes.
We took some time. I'm not in the loop, so I do not know exactly what was the reason, except the fact that we were thinking, well, we already have the constitution amendment. Number two, we already have the anti-hopping law. So we were hoping that things would be okay. But after this incident happened, when the 6 MPs decided to support PMX, so we decided then to amend our constitution. And now we are caught in this situation where we have to take action.
Within the party and then also within the constitution.
Yeah, first we amended the constitution of the party and then we went through the process. We decided that these MPs cease to be a member. Then we get PN to endorse because they were running under the PN logo, not Bersatu logo. And only then the Secretary General write to the speakers. And for now, we have had one decision from the Speaker of Dewan Negeri Kelantan. So we are awaiting Dewan Rakyat and Dewan Negeri Selangor.
Yes. This is where I sort of like put the ball in the court of PH leaders, and maybe I share with you my viewpoints and like to hear your response. I think given the fact that DAP amended our party constitution before the last general election, whereby to say that if any elected rep did not follow the party leadership decision on certain important matters like supporting the PM, the budget and issues like that, he or she automatically ceases to be a member of the party, and that is how you lose your seat. I think Bersatu has...
We almost follow word for word, almost.
So if that's the case, if that was sort of like the spirit of which DAP's leadership made that decision, supported by the members who voted for that amendment, party constitution amendment, then I think if, let's say, the Speaker of the House were to make a decision that says, I'm going to refer to Attorney General, or I'm going to say that these MPs continue to be MPs, they haven't lost their seat for whatever reason, it would sort of like make a mockery of DAP's decision to change its party constitution. Even if, let's say, DAP leaders were to say, look, we should follow due process, the Speaker has said certain things, we just follow due process. But the spirit of the anti-hopping law amendment and also DAP's own party constitution was of that nature.
Yeah, you see, I agree with you. Okay, we went through this. People call it the Sheraton move. Okay, it never happened before. All right. Now, we were all thinking that we must find ways and means to avoid this thing from happening again.
Yes.
So yes, the AP took the idea of and amended the constitution. I thought it's a good thing. And then the others followed. I think UMNO followed. And now, of course, Bersatu followed. But I like your choice of word. It's the spirit behind those amendments to our party constitution and the amendment to the constitution and the formulation of the anti-hopping law. It's the spirit.
Yes.
So we really have to honor the spirit, regardless from which party an MP is doing this kind of whatever that they are doing. Yeah. So it is really the spirit that we have to honor. And I'm really hopeful that the Speaker, both in Dewan Rakyat and Selangor, will look at the spirit behind the whole thing. Yeah, because at the end of the day, you can have all kinds of laws and regulation. It's the culture. It's the political culture. And this is where I think the spirit is relevant. Because if we uphold the spirit, then a certain kind of culture will then be established.
The political culture.
The political culture. There will be sanctions. And these are not worded and not written anywhere. People will just, look at you like something else.
You are makhluk if you don't. You are alien if you don't follow that.
You are paria or something.
Yeah.
You know.
Okay.
I mean, we all make our mistakes. I used to tell people, I have my taubat nasuha as a Muslim. Yeah, it was a mistake that we all do, for good or for worse. We learn through it, and now we should aspire to do much better.
So to bring this issue back to what we first spoke about in terms of institutional reform, which is parliamentary allocation, I think this is where my opinion is that the parliamentary allocation issue was weaponized, meaning it was used as umpan, as bait to get some people from Bersatu, MPs, to support the unity government, to get across maybe the 2/3 threshold, and also to weaken Bersatu. And that is the reason, or one of the reasons, why equal parliamentary allocation wasn't given. And because of that move, which I consider to be a mistake, you have this situation where it leads to another issue, again of institutional reform, pertaining to anti-hopping.
Exactly.
Right. So one mistake leads to another mistake.
Exactly.
And if you are not principled in one area, it makes it very difficult for you to follow your principles in another area.
Exactly. This is a sad thing. This is a sad thing. I mean, I'm saying this not because I'm in the opposition, but because both of us, and I know many of our colleagues are on the same page. We aspire to work for a better democracy. So the institutions must be reformed, and systems must be better, must be intact. So the principles, the values needs to be upheld.
So given all these things which have happened or haven't happened, what is your sort of like outlook in terms of the ability of PMX and also this unity government to push through institutional reforms? I'm not going to talk about the economic side. I'm going to talk about institutional reform from a parliamentary perspective, from a anti-corruption perspective. Are you hopeful? Are you skeptical? What's your feeling?
Mixed feeling. I'm skeptical because PMX seems to be in vengeance and in some of his remarks, even in the House, which is really uncalled for.
Maybe a bit defensive?
To a certain extent, yes. But hopeful because, look, this is probably the first time we have a Prime Minister who claimed himself to be a reformist. But so far, we haven't seen that. Now, the other reason why I'm hopeful is this. Many of us who are in the opposition, number one, we used to be in government. You guys used to be in opposition. We were debating the same topics, but from different sides of the house. Number two, the dynamics of all the parties. We have been working together at one time, PAS used to work with the AP, AP used to work with, with Bersatu, and now the AP is working with UMNO. So the dynamics of things should become some kind of a window of opportunity for people to meet and debate and discuss things.
And work towards a common good.
Exactly. And that is one of the reasons why I think it is helpful. I was asked the other day if certain amendments to certain laws, say Sedition Act, would Perikatan Nasional support it? I say, I don't know about that. I cannot speak for everybody, but look, we were in the government at one time and we were already discussing the possibility of abolishing or replacing Sedition Act with something else. So, for that matter, I cannot stand in the house and say, I tak setuju because I was there at one time together with Gobin and the others discussing the possibility of replacing the Sedition Act with something else.
Have there been, some MPs, especially from the unity government side, within PH, for example, who have, in Parliament minum kopi with you and say, actually, we should, try to work together more to push through certain reforms, but I can't because the situation is as such. Have you had those conversations before?
Yeah, I have. Surely I cannot name them. But I'm sure some people can guess. Guess lah. The usual suspects, former MPs, present, sitting MPs, those in the cabinet, those who are not in the cabinet. We have been friends for a long time. We share many things together. We are on the same page on many issues. And I think discussions, serious discussions among people, among leaders. We need that kind of discussion. You see, one of our weakness in our politics, never mind which part of the house you are from, is the lack of policy orientedness among many of us.
So it's more about politics rather than policies.
It's all real politics, rather than policies. It's very difficult for you to know or to name MPs who are known for something that is of policy material. You normally know someone for his rhetorics, for what he say in parliament or what he said.
Yes,
salah cakap,
mungkin perangai dia, his behavior and all that. Yes.
Rather than the policy that he is trying to moot or he is trying to champion. I think we should go to that level. That MPs should be known for something, should be known for certain policies that he or she would champion.
Don't you think that is also a reflection of the leaders of the political parties, because they would rather encourage MPs from their own parties perhaps to try to attack the opposition or attack the government on non-policy issues rather than to have a more reasoned debate? Do you think that is one of the reasons?
Maybe that's one of the reasons, but I can only share in our shadow cabinet. We don't call it shadow cabinet, we call it portfolio. We don't want to be too ambitious.
Okay.
In our meetings, in our pre-councils, I think Dato Sri Hamzah and Taqiyuddin, I think they are trying very hard to impress upon PN MPs. Number one, we should be sending in good questions and then prepare our debates and try to not to limit ourselves to the portfolios that we belong to, but try to sort of specialize in certain areas. So you will notice that Dr. Razi Jidin, for instance, former minister, immediate past Minister of Education, would
focus on economic issues?
Yeah, would focus on economics. And even if there are issues on education, he would then pass it to me. Issues on foreign affairs, I will pass it to Wan Faisal. So we try to manage in such a way that, every MPs and MPs who belong to certain portfolios will try to sort of specialize in certain areas. And I thought we are doing quite well to a certain extent. Of course,
can be better. Of course,
we can do better. We hope to do better in this coming sitting.
So maybe one final question. You mentioned that everyone, all the different parties in government, in the opposition, now have done the merry-go-round, have worked with each other in opposition as well as in government. Do you foresee a situation where after the next general election, there can be a reconfiguration of who is in government and who is in opposition? Let's say, for example, for the sake of argument, it's still a long time to go before the next general election. If let's say Perikatan Nasional wins more seats in Peninsular Malaysia this time, maybe UMNO loses more seats, and then PN is in the driver's seat to form the next government, and will invite Sabah, Sarawak and others to join. Do you foresee a situation where PH can work together with Perikatan Nasional in a unity government, maybe at the instruction of the Agong after the next general election? Is that a possibility?
Well, Jokowi appointed Prabowo into his cabinet.
Yes.
Modi has formed a coalition government. And you see, I think it's good that we no longer have a situation where one party is so strong to the extent that you can dominate parliament. I'm always a believer of a coalition. You can form the coalition before, which is better, before election. But if it is so required, then you have to form the coalition after parliament. But I'm more interested in getting all players to play at the center of Malaysian politics. My real concern coming is not really who's going to form the government, but somehow I see that we are moving to the right. Both sides is actually moving to the right,
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, and that's not healthy for a multiracial, multi-religious country like Malaysia. We really have to play. Yeah, some people can be center left, some people can be center right, maybe more center right, for the moment. Yeah, but definitely not far right. So when I look at some of the results of the European Parliament election, I mean, there is a concern. There is a concern, I think, that if we are not careful, we may end up everybody moving to the right, and that will make our politics too adversarial
and very toxic,
tajam and very toxic. Then you have no opportunity to discuss the real substance, the policies, the reforms, and so on.
Yeah, and I think you're on the same page as I think some of my colleagues who are still in government, people like Liu Chintong, who advocates for the centre to hold.
Yep.
And even for some of our friends who are no longer in frontline politics, but still contributing to the political conversation, people like Khairi Jamaluddin, Syahrul Hamdan, they also want to...
Or Mujahid.
And Mujahid, trying to strengthen the centre. And, I'm glad that, there are people like you and others in Perikatan Nasional who wants to sort of like promote more policy-oriented discussions and debates. So, if let's say there are other MPs, whether you're from the unity government or from the Perikatan Nasional opposition.
Or Aduns too. I think there are Aduns who are also on the same page.
Yes, and if let's say you guys want to, come and sit in Dato Saifuddin's chair and discuss these issues and areas, you're more than welcome. So thank you very much, Dato, for being the first Member of Parliament to come and sit in this chair, and I hope that we can get others like you to come and encourage more of this kind of debate and discussion.
Well, thank you. This is some kind of jejak kasih lah.
A good reunion. a good reunion.
Yeah.
All the best to you in your kawasan, in your party.
And you too. Yeah, in your academic work.
Thank you very much. Yes. Looking forward to more interactions like this. All right. Thanks for all your support. Please remember to hit the like and subscribe button. We are more than 20,000 subscribers. We are trying to reach 21,000. With your support, I'm sure we can do it. See you.